This is your host, as always, Elliot Barn is joining me. Is a guy that went from the highs of highs at the 83rd minute to the lows of lows by the 90th. Mr. Matt Myers, how are you doing, bud?
Yeah. Usually somebody calls you like a 84-minute man. You're taking that with a lot of praise. Nah,
Yeah,
not this time.
no, no. I, I'm gonna be real with you, yo. I don't know how to feel about this game. Like,
How about pissed? How about bad? How about angry? How about disappointed? Any of those work
man,
for you?
it's an array of emotions, yo. It's an array of emotions. Because on
No,
Saturday night,
I don't think it's an array. I think they're all on the same end of the spectrum.
same end of the spectrum, but it's like I can be sad about this game because it's like you dropped 2 points at home. I can be pissed about this game because you let a 2 goal lead go. I could be like weirdly curious and overthinking this game because for some odd reason the USL League One table gods have still figured out a way how Richmond to be. What is it? 4 points out of third.
Three.
Yeah, 3 points out of third, and you're still sitting there. You're like, I hate to say it, but this team still has a shot, and I don't understand how. But
Yeah.
then you look at
Yeah.
teams like Greenville that have fuffled the bag, and you're like, oh, well, now I see how.
Right. I mean, that's probably the most frustrating thing about it is if they even just string together 2 wins in a row, they look in amazing shape. Like North Texas, was in a far worse position a couple weeks ago. They've won I think three in a row, and all of a sudden they're sitting pretty. They're looking pretty good, moving forward. So things can change so fast, and when it's there in your hands, when you can be able to just feel you're in the 82nd minute, you're up 2 goals at home. You should be able to cash that in every single time,
Yeah.
and be able to say, all right, we're gonna be up there. We're gonna be in fifth, sixth place, whatever it would have ended up being at that point. And then just to have a quick double shot, like I mean, there were people who legitimately didn't realize. Wait, they scored twice during that time. I turned around. What happened on the second one?
And the second one was probably like the second one was very pretty. So in this game, we finally got to see Joe Rice play against the Kickers because I think it's been what five appearances, 5 times we played the Reds, and this is the first time he's ever played against us. Olex get to start. We see the 6 guys that didn't make the trip to Toronto. They get all starts. Us outside of Hernan. And I mean, to be real with you, like the first half or so, it felt like the Kickers were on the positive foot. We still
It
like
felt
the issue we're talking about how they were playing around the midfield, but it felt positive.
it felt like the good version of this year's Kickers. I wouldn't say that we were on the front foot because I don't think this team is ever on the front foot.
Mm-hmm.
Out there, but you saw the good version of the Kickers come up. You saw the version where we're able to build make space down that left flank. Whether it was Olex trying to burn somebody, he didn't have the most effective day down there, but he also opened up that space that Matty was able to take advantage of to be able to get the assists for of course Emmy, because it's always Emmy. He's the MEVP of the league for a reason. So that was the good side of it. And New England, like everybody else always does, we'll talk about this later on, they had far more of the ball, but Jalen, Ivan, Monty in the first half, they were just clearing everything out of the area to the point where Akir had I think that one save in the first half where it was kind of just a header that went almost straight to him. And
Yeah.
other than that, he didn't really have anything to do that half. So I feel like that's the kind of ideal vision for what the team realistically is, how it comes together. It's what that first half looked like, and it's just put it together for 245s in a row.
I, to be honest with you, that feels like that is the hardest thing for this team to do because they can put together good stretches. We've seen it in other games where they put together good stretches. Been positive defensively. But I think not this year we have not put together a streak of consecutive wins. We
Not
got
once.
consecutive draws. We don't have consecutive wins, and it's just like I don't know what leads to that. And just trying to stay positive as we can. It's like I don't know what leads to this team not being able to be on that to just rack up consecutive wins.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
always like we're about to have another win, and then it's defensive error, or it's like we can't put together the offensive part.
it's not even consecutive wins. We haven't won, a game, then had a draw loss, and then win the next game. We haven't even had a sandwich. We haven't had a win sandwich yet. There's always been at least 2 games in between wins.
Yeah,
that'll keep you close. That'll keep you close to the playoff spot. That's not going to get you in a playoff spot ultimately.
No, and now we're at the point of 11 games left of the year, and the next 4 games are crucial. You got two teams after that, and then you look and you run into a 5-game stretch where you play North Texas, Chattanooga, Union, Omaha, FC Tucson, Fort Madison. Union and Chat are playing for first place ultimately. North Texas is North Texas, so they're going to find a way how to figure out a playoff spot. Fort Madison, Richmond, give or take, are kind of in the same position. One team,
they're in a little better spot right now, but for the most part, probably the same ultimate outcome.
Yeah, and then FC Tucson is kind of falling near the bottom of the table.
Yeah, well, we still never won out there.
Yeah, so it's who's to say what's going to happen? But I just want to ask you, what do you think that's kind of playing into the players' psyches right now, and the coaches' psyches of just like we haven't, like you said, had a sandwich yet or consecutive wins?
Man, I don't see how it doesn't. If you're a player, everybody's going to say, "Oh no, we take it one game at a time. We look at the big picture. We feel good, blah blah blah." Anybody who's watched sports for any amount of time, what the media responses are going to be with all that, right? Yeah. And if you've played sports, full well, how things have been going. When things are going well. When things are not, going right, and you get frustrated when things aren't going the way that they are planned to go. Okay, you might take a loss here and there. That's a little bit of a fluke, but when you're starting to see repeated results that aren't helping out, that aren't going your way, I think it's human nature to start to let that sink in a little bit and kind of think about, okay, well, what's going on here? What are we ever going to get this done?
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Because to be real with you, I even said it during the game, like the 82nd minute. I was like, all right, this team is, if we could get to the 82nd or 83rd minute, I feel confident enough. We can close this out. I know the subs that they're going to make at this point. He's going to bring on Hernanley. He's going to bring on Luke. He's going to bring on either Cam or Ethan, maybe give him a ride. And I feel confident. I feel fine enough. We feel fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're probably going to talk about their goals a little bit, but it felt like after that first goal, which by the way was a wonder strike, and I don't know what better defense it could do. It kind of felt like after that, it was kind of just like a punch in the mouth, and we were kind of just starstruck, and we're just like, what do we do now? It seemed like
it just took the air out of the stadium. That first one, where it's just like, it's like, oh crap, is this really going to happen again?
Yeah, because I think it's just the matter how the goal happened, because it wasn't as if unless anyone got beat, it just came out of nowhere, and it was that kind of strike where you saw the entire Revs bench just got energized, and the Richmond bench got tight. The players got tight.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those where you're just like, oh crap, how much time is left now? All right, can we do 10 minutes? Spoiler, no.
No, you couldn't do 10 minutes.
Didn't even hit 100 seconds.
No. But we were talking about it before the podcast, but it does feel like this game is a perfect. If someone asks you, 5 years down the road, what were the 2020, 2021 kickers like? I would show them this game and be like, yo, this was this team. Because, they can be They can be great defensively. They can be stout. They can be stingy. Very aggressive. They can have individual goals like the Emmy goal in the second half, or they can have team goals where Maddie, provided a great assist for Emmy.
Yeah.
But then also they could turn it off defensively and they can lose a game and all momentum on a wonder strike.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking back through some of the other games. I feel like this might be a little too much scoring for a typical Richmond game of the last 2 years. I might try to find one of those 1-1 draws instead. If you're asking me for like a perfect vision of what these new Darren Swatsky teams have been, but I mean, for the most part, yeah, you're right. Glimmers of greatness and glimmers of absolute horror show at times.
Yeah. It just
yeah.
And it's typical as fans because you start to question like what is going on, like we're essentially near the end of not near the end, but we're getting close to the end of season 2 under Darren, and you start to try to think like, all right, what is the direction that the club and Darren wants ultimately to go?
Yeah, it's hard to say long term because if you look at by the numbers and everything, this year this team has played 17 games. They have scored 22 goals, allowed 23. Last year they played 16 games. They scored 22 goals, allowed 22. Last year Terzaghi 10 goals out of those 22. This year 11 goals out of the 22. Shockingly similar when you start to look at those. I didn't pull all the possession stats from last year, but I'm guessing it's not terribly different either. The big difference is last year's teams pulled some of these games into draws into wins, and this year they're staying as draws. So I think we know what our best ideal of what Darren wants to do is, because it's what we've been shown the last 2 years. Last year, you can be able to say, okay, yeah, it was a COVID year. Yeah, it wasn't all his guys. He got to pick the players this year. He got a proper preseason with them this year. There's nothing to be said other than this is, the presumption has to be this is what he wants to do on the field.
Yeah. It's no longer about like, oh, he's just doing this out of necessity. It is. This is what the mentality of the Kickers are going to be. And the possession stats last year are roughly the same. Last year was 43%. This year is 42%. I think if you want to look at maybe what's the biggest difference, I want to say is the amount of yellow cards. Like it's doubled. Like we went from 26 in a span last year in 16 games to 43. And, twice as many red cards. So, I mean, that's one thing. But a lot of those yellow cards could be anything. It could be just, tactical fouls or ref this year just wanted to pull the card.
Let's be real. A lot of those yellows are the additions of, two guys, Mr. Zaka and Mr. Jalen. They're stacking.
And probably Monty. You put Monty in there as well.
There's just driving down that I was trying to think of the bad, pop punk, song. Ocean Avenue. There we go. Yellow card.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to look at anything, and I mean, we talked about it at length, but like, it does seem like this team does misses. The question got asked us, do we ask questions?
Yeah,
but it seems like the team does misses Riley Kraft and Kyle Bender. Like, those are the two key pieces from last year's team to this year's team that are not there. And I'm more of the fence that I think is more Kyle than Riley, and you're more the opposite. So I mean,
put the case out there. So you think Kyle Venter? I mean, he was our captain last year. I think he played every single game.
Yeah.
He missed the first game, I think, right?
Yeah,
and then he played every other one.
Missed the first game.
Yeah, but then he played
every other game.
So go. So make your case. Why is he the bigger loss?
So I think Kyle was the bigger loss. One, because he's your captain, and I think that really does play a lot into player psyche. Like, who to look to for moments of leadership. Was Kyle the best, player on the field every game? No, but I think just having that veteran presence, that leadership out there, you know who to rely on moments you get tight. Like in this game, fans, I guarantee you, if we had Kyler there on that field, I think things get played a lot different. Even if you included the Wonder Girl, I think things just play out a lot differently. And I think a lot of the draws that kickers have this year that wins last year was due to just having that veteran leadership. Like the one thing we've heard a lot from the front office, from players, from staff is, a lot of these guys aren't very vocal. They lead by example. Kyle was very vocal. We've heard Kyle very vocal. And I think that just helps a lot because not only are you focused on what's going on around you, you're looking at everything like it's a chess game. Because soccer is one of those games where, one pass can lead into another pass and things just happen to break down almost like chess. It's the move before the move of why you get beat on certain things. And I think Kyle was just great at that. So I think losing that, you put a guy like Jalen, and don't get me wrong, I have been one of Jalen's top praisers this year. But I got to put the fault on him for the second goal in this game. He just got lost. He just got flat-footed. I think that just comes down to experience. Kyle had a lot of experience in USL League One. I know Jalen played games at Detroit City and NISA, but the step in level is different. It's a higher level. Not that much higher. It's still lower league soccer, but it's a little bit higher. I also look at it like Jalen didn't start for Forward Madison. So even if you want to include his time in Detroit City, he's lost a year because, he's not playing active minutes. Cal was there in 2019 with FC Tucson, playing a full season, know this league, know what Darren wants and expects. Darren didn't have that person this year, who knew what to expect, out of him defensively. So
I think there's all really good points. And I think the leadership piece is certainly something to be spoken for. I agree. I think Kyle Venter would have definitely on the second goal been right on the man. He would not have had a free header. I would suspect in that moment. I mean, maybe it's contested, maybe it still goes in. Who knows? But it wouldn't have been that wide open. If I had to take my guess on it. So I think these are all good points. I mean, certainly he was a very good player for us. Yeah, I think losing Riley, though, possession's already been a problem for this team. We were just talking about that, a little bit ago, and taking out one of the key guys who could actually possess the ball in the midfield, hold the ball, for a little bit, and provide some creative, spark through there. I feel like we haven't really replaced that. Like, Victor does what he can. He's not that same kind of player. Neil does what he can. He's not that same kind of player. And I don't think this team, as constructed, has that player. Maybe Ethan Bryant can become that, but we saw him for 20 minutes today. I doubt he's the exact same type. But think about all off season we were saying, hey, we need that bulldog in the midfield, and not necessarily like the Zaka type of bulldog, but more of the attacking bulldog type. How many times on this podcast have we praised Marco Micheletto, right? I kind of look at Riley Kraft as maybe like a 90% Micheletto type, where he's not going to give you 9 goals in the season, but how many assists did he pick up off of free kicks last year? How many times did he find his way into the right spot, at the right time? I mean, he picked up, that goal in New England. He picked up the goal at home against Greenville, by following up a shot, for the the tap in that ended up being the winner against Greenville. He was not afraid to get himself stuck in the midfield. I thought he was a really all around strong player. I never expected him back this year because I thought he was probably going to move up to the championship level in the first place. So. I think, you can certainly make the argument that, Kyle might have all around been a better player than Riley. I'm happy to listen to that argument, but I think, the opportunity cost, like, the step from Kyle to Jalen is a lot smaller than the step, from Riley to Victor or Neil or, whoever is whoever really is in that spot, if anyone is, right now. So that's why I think Riley's been the bigger loss for us, is just because we haven't been able to find a good kind of analog to replace him.
Yeah, and I mean, like, also it's like, yeah, that's true, because if Kyle's in, the formation is probably roughly the same, but if Riley's in, the formation is probably totally different. Like, we're not playing a 4-4-2, blanket 4-4-2. It's probably a lot different than what where everything is.
The other thing for Riley is, if we have him, we might actually have midfield depth right now.
Yeah.
Instead of having to run Zoc and Victor to death every game.
That's another thing too, because I really thought going into this year, I thought like, all right, we have depth, like something that I really wanted going into this year was like, oh, I want depth, I want to have the options, and I think if there's any criticism on Darren, that's probably valid, because fans, definitely have their criticisms. I think it really just comes down to substitutions. It just pre-plan subs.
I mean, we have some depth, but like we have tons of winger depth, right?
Yeah.
Wingers, attacking wide player, attacking forwards, whatever you want to call them. We got those for days.
Yeah.
Right.
That we're covered on.
Yeah, we got a decent number of outside backs. I mean, a lot of them are hurt, but we got some guys there and everything too. Even with the defensive midfielder spot, you got Zaka, Victor. Has proven last year that he can step into that spot. Even Mumbai could be able to fill that spot. If necessary. Right there. So you got like 3 guys that can play that role too. But I mean, there's no replacement for Emmy in the sense that he's just clearly beyond every other player on this team, right? So you're not going to find a square replacement for that anyway. But what else do we really have in that kind of spearhead attacking play right now? I mean, Stanley who vanished all of a sudden. He did well for 3 games, but that's not his natural spot. He's more of a forward for the most part. So there's depth, but it's kind of like overloaded in certain spots rather than spread all over the place, I guess is the short way of saying it.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that, and by the way, Shanir has joined us finally. Hey, Shanir.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, man.
This is a fun game to talk about.
Almost a fun game to talk about, bar the last 10 minutes.
Almost. I mean, even there, it's in an 80th minute. It's like we kind of knew what subs to expect.
Yeah, Yeah, when you're talking about the subs, like I don't know this for a fact, but it feels a lot of times like it's almost pre-planned and pre-scripted. Like, okay, Olex or Johnny or Maddie or whoever's not starting in kind of the fast guy attacker role. All right, you're going to come on then for the other guy. It doesn't really matter how the game's been going, anything like that. You're going to come on around that time. 80th minute, Hernan. All right, you're going to come on, right then. Might have 1 or 2 others in there too, because you got to double up sometimes nowadays if you want to use all your subs. We never do. But there seems to be a lot of patterns. Like you kind of pick it out ahead of time, which it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when they don't work, it doesn't look great.
Well, I think the reason why it doesn't work is because planned substitution only work for like players. So if, for example, Bolaños and Olex were the exact same type of player, then you would say, okay, when one engine starts to fail, you just throw in another one. And roughly around the time when one of them will start to slow down, and you refresh that part of the field. But the players he's subbing on, they're not like for like players. Because of the fact that they're not like for like players, you're looking at a situation where things are completely changing and no one planned for that, but the subs were planned.
Yeah, and there was some chatter about, well, why take Emmy out? In the what was that, the 83rd minute? when he made the change. I can understand that one. Yeah, because,
Me too.
I understand both sides of it on that.
Yeah.
On that one, I can understand. Okay, you want to bring in Hernan because look, we were pinned in at that point, and bringing in any big body that can be able to potentially hold the ball is helpful. And if you can do nothing else, you can hold the ball, and win a header or two. But at the same time, we talked about this, last week. Emmy is, the guy, probably one of the only guys on the team where you can rely on him to get fouled and to be able to relieve the pressure that way. And he didn't look, at least to me, he didn't look gassed. So I'd rather have, him in there. You roll the dice that he doesn't pick up another yellow in the last 5 minutes. I mean, he's a professional. I think he knows how to be able to avoid that. And you let him, hold the ball. Maybe it ends up being him playing it long and seeing if Bolaños can run onto it, because that's a lot what happens anyway. And go from there. So I get where the complaints were coming from on that one, but I also do understand Darren's perspective too.
Well, at the end of the day, I understand that maybe he's thinking, okay, we want to save his energy for the next game, because it's been the past few games have been coming a bit fast and quick for the Kickers. But the one thing that I think about with that is what happens to in-game management, because you should be able to communicate with a player. All right, dial it back a bit, preserve your energy, rely on other players to make certain runs, but you're still out there to do some of the things that Darren may not want to rely on him to try and go forward, push forward, and score another goal. But at least you have that player in there that knows how to hold the ball and draw a foul, that knows how to slow the game down, that knows how to find those passes. It doesn't require him to use as much of the energy that he has in order to do that. So if you're feeling that you need to preserve his energy, have him dial it back a bit. Like you said, Matt, he's a professional. He should be able to do that.
Yeah, he also shouldn't be tired. He hadn't played for 2 weeks. We don't play for 8 days after that game.
Yeah, I think the only sub I can really sit there and question, I think, is Luke for Calvo, because the goal does come on the first goal comes on the side of Luke got subbed in for. But when Matt, you were saying like Calvo picked up a knocks, I get that sub, but and this is the part where it's in there, like you're mentioning, like the in-game management part. If these subs are pre-planned, it's like instead of throwing Luke out there, all right, granted, you can put Luke up top, because we know what Luke's going to provide you. He's going to provide you that crazy pressing, running around energy. You got Ani, you have Cole, and Cole's been playing fullback for the greater part of the last 6 games?
I mean, other side.
Yeah, on the other side. But I mean, essentially, it's still fullback, like outside of maybe passing stuff. But at that point, you're just trying to preserve the game and just shut it down. Maybe that's a sub where I think if you could give Darren one sub back, I think that's the one he might go back and change.
I'm curious, on the topic of subs, what did y'all think of Bryant? Because he came in for Maddie like 20 minutes to go or something like that.
I don't mind.
I think he
had a really good game.
Yeah, I think he had a pretty good. He had a pretty decent 15 minutes. And because of that, it makes me wonder about certain things. But I don't think Matt Bolduc was the player to come on for. I think we could have used Matt still being on the field. And if you think about it, maybe Falk was still useful out there. Maybe Zaka could have come off, taken a little break.
I think Neil is the person you could have possibly brought off.
Yeah, and Neil probably, you could have taken him off to give Ethan a try. You could tell when Ethan came on that he hadn't been training with the team for long yet. You could tell. But you could tell that he was figuring things out on the fly. He was kind of growing into the game. And that was something that was encouraging to see. He almost got an assist shortly after coming on. At first, I was a little concerned because when he first came on, he looked a little lost out there. But then he started to get into his rhythm. He started to make some key passes. And I think he'll work out fine. Just give him a little more time with the team, maybe a week or two with the team, and he'll be able to get into the flow of things.
Yeah, but it also shows that Darren listens to the show because we were talking about midfield depth, and then he goes signs a midfielder on loan. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it gets that youth movement going, too, because
exactly.
he's still only 19. Like he's played, some for San Antonio a couple different times. He went over to played in Belgium for a little bit. I'm guessing it didn't work out there if he was already back in San Antonio again. But there's been some promise there, and I feel for me, I like the Kickers becoming like the like youth reclamation project club, because Gallardo was nowhere. Came here and rejuvenated. Riley was nowhere. Came here, kind of got rejuvenated. Okay, got hurt. That's not our fault. Ethan wants to be the next guy who is maybe got a little bit of hype as a young player and falls off, comes back here and uses Richmond to propel himself forward. I'm cool with the Kickers having that rep.
Yeah, I don't think nothing wrong with that rep. I just, you guys could probably answer better than me, but I start to question what is then the Kickers' trajectory as a club. Like, what are the Kickers looking to do long term? Because like we've all know in USL League One, you can't really plan 3, 4, 5 years in advance because there's so much high overturn. Contracts barely even last 2 years outside of that. So it's like if the Kickers want to go into this movement, you then start to wonder, like, all right, what is Darren, Rob, Mika's overall aspect of like year to year? What are they looking to build? And right now, it's like when you look at the Kickers as a whole on the field, you're just like, do you have any confidence in the tactics?
I have confidence in Terzaghi.
I have confidence. I have confidence in Terzaghi. Basically, Terzaghi, a little bit Ivan, and Akira. But Akira, how much longer will he be with us as a player? It's not. This is probably going to be his last season, if not next season. As a player,
I keep saying it every year, and Akira keeps playing.
No, I mean the telltale sign was player coach. That's usually the transition into this is my last hurrah. But the thing that confuses me is it looks like we're going for longevity, but it doesn't. At the beginning, when Darren first signed on, there were talks of Richmond being that feeder club, being that club that produces, that we buy cheap and sell big. Even though
big is relative in this level.
Of course, big is relative in this level. But I know he meant it a little bit tongue in cheek. But he said, "I want to sign our next youth player to Real Madrid." And like there is that sense of he wants to buy cheap and sell high.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's really what's happening here, because if that were the case, as much as I would hate to see him go, as much as I hated it to see Joe Gallardo go, wouldn't this past offseason been the time to try to put Terzaghi on the market if you want to go buy cheap and sell high? It would have made sense with that mantra, with that program to.
Janir, you're way deep into conspiracy. No, I mean,
I'm thinking about it. He was MVP, leading goal scorer in the league. That's the time he's the hottest commodity.
He's also old.
Yeah, he's also old, and also there's no real market in League One for older players. There's one there for younger players, but not necessarily older ones. Yeah. But getting back to the,
I want to get my cheap shot in before we move along. Yeah, good thing. Darren saying he wants to sell everybody. Real Madrid. Awesome. Good thing he didn't pick a good old broke ass Barcelona.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
That's
cheap shot over.
Well, I mean, they look like they're, or at least on the field, they don't look like they're a broken club so far.
So let me ask you guys this, and getting back to the games on the field. Sunday becomes a big game. The
Yep.
mentality of everything goes into Sunday.
Exactly.
I don't want to say it because Matt is probably going to laugh, but it feels like Sunday is make or break. Neither team can afford really a draw in this game because the draw doesn't do anything. It keeps Richmond's head above water. Like, we're kind of like the old cartoons where a person just has the straw and they try to breathe underneath water. Like, that's how Richmond is right now.
Basically.
And Greenville is slowly but surely, like, I don't know what happened to that club.
No, we're like the 6-year-old learning how to swim that's treading water. Greenville's like the 9-year-old treading water in the deep end for the first time.
Yeah.
Neither one of them is looking pretty right now. Neither one of them is doing what we want, but they're not drowning yet. But
no.
Yeah. But mathematically, of course, it's not a must-win yet because there's too much of the season left. But you're right; it feels like we're getting there quickly.
Yeah, it does. It feels like you're getting to that point now where you're just like, all right, if you're gonna put something together, you have to put it together now because you can't keep the schedule doesn't get any easier for you.
Yeah,
it doesn't get any easier for you.
I mean, and the thing that I feel is alarming is that we are in that lead pack. Well, I mean, literally that lead pack is 1st to 10th because there's such a small gap. It's 9 points between 1st and 10th.
1 and 2 are pulled away from the pack.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are pulling. You look at games in hand.
Chattanooga probably has the best scenario to really pull away from the pack if they can be 4 and Union this week. If they do that, it's Chattanooga's the number 1 seed for the rest of the year.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know about that because Union have been pushing pretty hard as well. Yeah, they're dropping points here and there, but so is everyone else. And the thing right now is, that middle pack right behind the first 2, we are literally at the back of that pack. At least we're in that pack, but we're at the back of it. We have that saving grace that, South Georgia has 5 games in hand over everybody. I mean, everyone has at least 5 games in hand over South Georgia.
No, not anymore.
Okay, 5 is a stretch, but they have definitely played far more games than everyone else. They've played at least 2 more games than everyone else.
Yeah, that's true. But the problem is that we played more games than a few of those other teams now too.
Yeah.
I mean, So
it's like South Georgia has played the most games out of anyone with 19. But then if you look at the bracket between 7 to 12, we outside of Fort Lauderdale, we played the most games.
Yeah, true.
So then it gets really dicey because then it's like we were saying earlier, Shanir, this team hasn't put together consecutive wins yet this year. Or like Matt said, a sandwich where it's like a draw, win, draw, or a win, draw, win. We haven't put that together yet. And
no, there's always a loss in there. And but
it is not a pretty loss.
No, they're not pretty. They're not pretty. And I can, even though mathematically and technically and on paper we have a draw this Saturday, but I count that as a loss. That is a big loss. This is a team that we scored 3 goals against 2 times in a row, at home and away. We beat them twice, and that's a loss to me. And
something I will see is interesting about that the Revs game is if you go back to the last Revs game where we won 3-2, like you mentioned, New England was coming back in that second game. When they scored in the 76th minute, they were coming back. So it's not like this is unprecedented. It's just that
what it shows is that Richmond has stood still from the beginning of the season, and New England have grown. That's what it shows. 3-0, 3-2, 2-2. That just shows that New England has figured things out from the beginning of the season, and we just literally have stood still. And you can't stand still on a moving train. This is a situation where everyone is going to leave you behind if you don't improve.
Yeah, I would say the sign that New England's turned it around is more that they've won 3 of their last 5. Than incremental results against one team, because you could say New England's gotten better. I can make the argument we've just gotten a lot worse since game 1.
Yeah. And also doesn't help like New England is like probably the best team in MLS right now. And a lot of that talent that would probably go up and play New England if they were having a crap season is now like in USL League One.
I mean, it's been all the same guys all year.
Yeah, they've kind of kept the two teams. Sure. I think that's more of a FC Dallas, North Texas situation more so than New England. And I think Bruce is adamant about keeping the two teams separate.
Yeah.
So
I would just like to point out that somebody on this podcast gave me a lot of crap for saying the Revs would be good this year.
Well, they haven't been bad. I mean, you can't say
I'm not going to say which person it was. I was talking about Revs too, but
yeah. I was not expecting this.
Yeah,
especially when you look at the way they performed last year.
You can't look at your two teams. You got to know that by now.
I mean, it's true, but at the end of the day, there is that you got to take that caveat of, you're not going to see that level of improvement in League One as drastic. Most of the teams, yes, you'll see some improve. You'll see some decline, but it'll usually be by one or two steps. It won't be a massive it won't be a Leicester situation, basically, is what I'm saying.
Let me ask you guys this before we wrap up. Just two quick questions. We got 12 games left? If I didn't know, my fault.
11.
11 games left.
11, yep.
11 games left. What do you think Darren hangs his hat on to get this team over the edge in these next 11 games?
Emiliano Terzaghi.
Yeah, I thought I was about to say the same thing.
I mean, there's 2 years of proof of this team will go as far as he can drag them.
Which is frustrating. It's frustrating because I hate to bring it back that far, but ever since Lee Calishaw left, that's been the case. We've been relying on one guy.
I mean, 2019, Gallardo, Djax, and Chin kind of even on goals.
Djax and Chin could barely hit a barn door for most of the season. The player who was carrying us on the field was Gallardo. When Terzaghi came, it was him, and it's frustrating that this is the third year in a row where the Kickers don't have a consistent second outlet. We don't have a plan B player. We don't have someone who we can rely on, who, if, for example, we go up against a team and they literally double man mark Terzaghi for the whole game, we got nothing. It was the same thing with Gallardo. If you shut down Gallardo when we had Gallardo, if you shut down Gallardo, Kickers weren't doing nothing. Chin and Djax were left up there by themselves, and we weren't doing nothing.
I will push back and get that slightly. I get what you're saying. I'm not saying you're wrong in that aspect in there, but I also think this past week, this past game kind of skewed everything for us. I would say I think when it comes to Darren, I think, granted, this team offensively is going to rely on either great individual moments from players stepping up or good passing moments that are kind of hard to figure out sometimes.
Yeah, few and far between.
Yeah, because me and Matt were looking at the stats beforehand. I think Neil's our top assistant were 2.
Well, also, this team averages the fewest passes per match in the league with 256.1, the lowest percentage successful passes in the league overall. 11th place, just to give an idea. So we're at 256 passes per game. The closest to us is 286 passes a game.
Yeah, and see, I think that's the thing with Darren. We have enough footage on Darren to figure out what his style is, what he likes to play, and it's defensive. Nothing's wrong in that. Nothing's wrong in that. It's just in that style, you're going to need guys that are one tactically aware, defensively stout, and doesn't let anything behind him. Granted, Akira is a great goalkeeper. We sing his praises on this podcast a lot. He should have won goalkeeper of the year last year. You can make a case for him this year. But Akira can only get you so many. He can only win you so many games.
Yeah, I'm sick of us relying on him, basically.
we long since know that how Chenier feels about Akira getting recognition.
Yeah.
I don't mind him getting recognition because look, Matt Turner gets recognition.
No,
Manuel Neuer gets recognition.
Yeah, the recognition part isn't a bad thing. It's just it's just relying on a goalkeeper to stand on his head and one player to score the goals. Literally is what it looks like.
Just lean into your gimmick, Chenier.
No, I'm just. It's not a gimmick. I'm just look. I'm gonna stand on this soapbox until I see a game where Akira is bored. Can we have one of those games where Akira spends the whole game barely doing anything, barely having to do anything? Can we have?
I don't think you will. I don't think you will
that's
because
the problem.
I don't think it's possession.
It's not possession, and I don't think it's an issue of defensive teams because you can be a defensive team and shut the other team down from being able to take quality shots and be a defensive team. But the problem is, any defensive team, you're still going to need at least 2 goal-scoring outlets to relieve that pressure from the defense. If the defense is constantly being battered and battered and battered, and there is no outlet, there is no person you can get the ball out to create something to kind of give the defense a break, or you only have one, and once the other team figures that out, they shut that player down, then eventually you're going to leak goals. You're going to leak goals, and this is the situation we're dealing with. We're dealing with a back four that is a solid back four. On paper, our back four is probably one of the best in the league. But
you can't say that at this point.
You can. The reason why you can. The reason why you can is because any back four in this situation, no matter how good, is going to get beat eventually if you keep allowing the other team to come at us wave after wave after wave after wave. Eventually, they're going to break. And that's what's happening. Every game, we're getting those situations where tired legs lead to tired minds. Eventually, Ivan is going to be that little bit slower in the 80th minute to mark his man. Or Chrysler is going to be that little bit slower to close the ball down. Why? Because he's been doing it consistently and constantly all game long. His legs are tired.
So kind of, part agree, part counteract that. So we all agree Omaha, possibly the best team in the league, right?
Yeah.
You know who's 11th? Do you know who's 11th in the league in possession? Omaha.
Omaha, yeah.
Yeah. So
okay. Possession is one thing. But chances created, goals, expected goals, shots. That's where this comes from. Because if you possess the ball in the midfield, defense doesn't have to do that much, but just keep their eyes open.
Yeah, but you also have to look at it from the other perspective. We've had Darren here long enough to know that's not Darren's MO. That's not Darren's thing. So you can't. It's
What's
hard
not
to sit
Darren's
there
MO?
and be like, well, we should be attacking football.
I'm not asking for attacking football. No, I'm talking about what Matt said with regards to Union Omaha. Just because they have a little bit more possession than us, they're in 11th place with regards to possession or with regards to passes. That doesn't mean the other team is beating them on possession, but only in the midfield. Because if the other team is only beating them on possession in the midfield, then their defense isn't being battered. but we need to be looking at shots, expected goals that the other teams have against Omaha.
Currently with 8th in the table in shots on target per match, currently bottom in the league, big chances created. Yeah,
them creating chances or chances created against them.
Attacking category, big chances created.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about the defense. If the defense is not being battered, if the ball is being passed around,
going back and forth though is what Elliot and I are saying is you're talking about our defensive unit best in the league but then we say no they're not. You're saying this because the offense isn't
no I'm not saying
showing another team with that's better than us all around, better defense, better offense, but their counting stats and everything aren't significantly different than ours. So they're certainly executing better in that regard.
But that's what I'm saying. That's where the thing is, execution. They're picking their chances and not desperately just trying to score goals. They are picking their chances. There's an efficiency there.
Right. Yeah, therefore our defense is clearly not the best in the league.
No. I'm talking about the attack. There's an efficiency in their attack, showing you they have less shots, they have less expected goals, is because they are only taking those shots when it's a good chance created. On the flip side, if we could be creating decent chances with Terzaghi, but most of the times they're going to be early on in the game until Terzaghi gets figured out.
We also don't create big chances.
We don't create We don't create many chances, but the chances that we do create, apart from some of those opportune tap-ins from Terzaghi or the wonder strike he had this past weekend, do we look like a team that is holding onto the ball and then creating a good chance that we take that shot and it's most likely going in the back of the net?
It's all about pushing back on we have possibly the best defense in the league. We do not.
Yeah, I think the biggest part is
you're going by the stats though. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. You're going by the stats that we're the best.
What it really comes down to is that Union Omaha might not have the most possession. Richmond doesn't have the most possession. But what it comes down to is that when you watch Union Omaha play, where they win the ball at, it's really like two stylistic things. Both teams play in a 4-4-2, but Union Omaha midfield is set up to win the ball in the midfield and then transition quicker in attack.
That's
where
the
Richmond
key word.
Midfield is more set up in a sense to play tight, allow you to play on the wings, and just sit in tighter and then expand into the offensive part. It's kind of like an accordion. Like defensive, we really are constricted. We're really tight. And then we expand going into the attack. But the thing is, going into the final third, our build up to the play has not been great. Because
it's been lump the ball forward.
Yes. And I think that's the thing. I don't think Zaka is a great Matt, you might be better assessing this more than me. But Zaka, I wouldn't say he's a great passer. He's a great destroyer. But he's not
he's not a decent 8. He's not
he's not asked to be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's also true. He's not asked to be.
But I think that's where our issue is. Our issue is there is no 8.
And what do you think Victor is?
He's more of a 6. He's more of a destroyer, like Zaka. It's like we're playing with 2 6s and a 10. There's no transition in the middle to create for that player who's going to transition the ball forward.
Maybe the better question to ask would have been, what do you think he's supposed to be playing right now? Not what is he?
Yeah. Who? Victor?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Victor is naturally a 6.
That's not the question, though.
Yeah, that's not the question.
What do you mean?
What do you think Victor is out there on the field to do right now? Like, what do you think his role is in the week? Shaneer, also, I don't need a 5-minute answer. Like, I need you to answer this question.
His role is to be a 6. Is to be a destroyer. Is to close things down.
I don't see that at all. I mean, do I think that he can do that? Yes. Do I think that's what Darren is asking him to do right now, especially since we've moved to the kind of a 4-4-2 diamond? Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know.
And I mean,
man.
look, I know right now it seems very negative because, like we said, like when your team isn't putting together win after win or win, draw, win, or you're like it's very
You're
easy to
losing
look at
every other
things.
game.
It's very easy to look at things half empty, if that's how the saying goes.
Yeah.
I think on the flip side of it, I think there are some positives. Look, I think Olex did a fantastic job of relieving pressure out of this team. Being able to be quick on the wings. I would have liked to see him be a little bit better with his decision making because there's times he got it behind. It's just that final when he got into the box, it was kind of just like I don't know what to do now. I'm running too quick.
His pace is too quick for his dribble.
Yeah,
is basically what
other things like that.
Yeah.
There are still things to work on, but you're at the point in the season now where you can't. The time is running out.
I think there's potential for Ethan to be a useful player if he can gel well.
I think he will. I think he is.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's shown it. He's shown it in the game. He had the nice little assist to the assist. I want the defensive work. I think will come from him, but
marketing team giving you a little heads up right here. You got 19-year-old kid coming in with flow like that on his head right as college students are coming back. Market that kid out to VCU, out to U of R, get them coming in to see our man with flowing locks like that. Oh, there you go.
Put him out there.
I'm sorry.
Samir,
Ethan looked like he just came off the beach, came from the surf, just ripped a few waves, and then just decided to put on his cleats.
Right. Shanir, real quick. You were at the press conference for Darren after the game. What was his mood like? What are some things he talked about?
Some of the questions that were asked were regarding Ethan, and were regarding Emmy. I think Darren does rate Ethan, and he does feel that, and it was through the press conference that I found out that he hadn't really had a lot of practice time with the team yet since before that game. So he needs to maybe a week or two to gel. And that was one thing that Darren did confirm, that he does feel that he will be a good player for the future. Darren was more in the mindset of just schoolboy errors at the end of the game. We can put together a strong game for 60 minutes, but after that, it's like just fundamental errors that are basically things that you at the age of 13 you should know not to do on the soccer field. He is frustrated. You could tell, definitely. But at the end of the day, it's about finishing strong, and I think that's where his focus is, and I think that's where his focus needs to be, at least for now. While Ethan starts to gel with the team, there needs to be a mentality of once that 60th minute hits, we can't be down tooling.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Real quick, guys, before we get out of here, thoughts on Greenville going into the game. Both teams aren't in great form right now. Greenville since June has only won 2 games. Richmond hasn't been any better. What are your quick thoughts on that game going into it?
I feel it's going to be a tough game. Yes, Greenville have not been doing very well, but they will be at home. We will be away. And we're coming off of a very, very big blow because based on the body language of the players after Saturday's game, that was a loss to them as well. And I think if they can shake that, then we have a chance. But that's going to be something hard to overcome going away to Greenville for. So it's going to be a tough game. We have the players on paper. We have what it takes to get something out of this game. But will they show up? Will they be able to pull through?
I mean, it'll be all the games are tough at this point, right? This team is not a team that's going to have easy games along the way. Greenville is hurting. I mean, physically as well. They're picking up injuries left and right. So it'll be interesting to see who they even have available at this point. But I expect a rock fight. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game to watch. It's not going to be a game that if you're asking somebody hey, let's watch your first soccer game ever. Let's have it be Kickers versus Greenville at Greenville on that nasty ass turf.
I question that person's decision why your first soccer game is USL League One. Like you bypassed a lot to get to this.
Yeah. So
well, I mean, if they live in South Carolina, what's the closest?
Well, they might be looking to pull something up on ESPN Plus. You might be, spreading the good word of the Kickers. But maybe it's not this one, because as much as we don't like to have the ball, Greenville doesn't either. So I don't know who's supposed to be building attacks, because neither team really seems that interested in it most of the time.
Midfield might just not get involved at all. Just ball get pinged back and forth.
I don't think it's going to be a pretty game, but. I think safe bet's a draw.
Yeah, safe bet will tell you it's a draw. I'm really hoping for 3 points for the Kickers. I think if you can pick up 3 points in this, who knows? Anything can happen against North Carolina. Anything can happen against Forward Madison, and who knows? Yeah. We can come back by September 2nd and be like, guys, we're in third place.
Yeah. Dude, you pick up 3 points in this game, we're tied with Greenville.
Yeah.
And if you said that 3 weeks ago, you would have sounded like an insane person.
Yeah. So who knows? And even just and I know even though we're all giving the team a hard time, but that's because we love them. We want to see this team do great. It's been a long time since the Kickers have been that team we all know and love. Since 2016, we haven't had a playoff run since then. If anything can happen to make this playoff push happen, I think the time is now, and we'll see. But yeah, guys.
Also, just a reminder, everybody, Sunday night game, not Saturday night.
Yeah. Sunday night football. It's going to be intense. But yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up, get up out of here. Shanir came on here, stood in his soapbox for 40 minutes, so that's positive. Yeah. But as always, guys, we want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to our podcast. We are coming up on our 100th episode. This is episode 97. We are 3 episodes away from episode 100. So yeah.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, we're almost there. We couldn't have done it without you guys. But as always, you can follow the show on Twitter, on Instagram at Rivercity93. Take a couple of seconds out of your day right now. If you made it this far, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It helps us get found. If you're watching the show on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. We'll be trying to put out more content as the offseason rolls around and things like that. But as always, for Matt and Shanir, this is Elliot. We will holler at you guys later. Keep us on the good side, guys.